All right, let's do this.
So, yeah. You just let us know.
Mr. Hyro, are we ready to go? Let's do it.
Let's do it. Are we live? Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Oh my gosh.
We're live.
Hi, guys. Here we are. iFixit live again. Are you excited?
I'm excited.
It's been a while, right?
It has. It's been, what, a month-ish?
Yeah, a little over a month. What have you been doing? What's been
I
going
went
on?
to Germany. I was hanging out with my friends.
Nice.
I went to the Science Museum in, there's one called Technorama in just over the border in Switzerland, and they have all sorts of awesome science exhibits.
Gosh.
They have this thing to show off the Doppler effect where it's like a train car, and you sort of get down and you look at it, and the train car comes toward you, blaring a loudspeaker, and you can hear the sound shift as it comes toward you.
Oh, cool.
So all sorts of little experiments to show off.
Very cool. Was it like hands-on? Like
Yeah,
you could
very
do your own
hands-on.
things?
And
Cool.
I mean, the experiments were really cool. The 1,000 screaming children encompassing the entire, it was maybe. So
Less
earplugs.
cool?
If you go to Technorama, bring earplugs.
Gotcha. Well, Germany's cool. Shout out to anyone in Germany who's watching.
And all our friends at the Deutsches Museum
Yeah.
in Munich.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I'm so excited to get started. We actually have a very full iFixit Live for you today. We told you that we're going to talk to Scott, one of our customer service gurus. So we'll be talking to him later, and he'll be answering some of your questions in the chat room. But we also are going over some of our teardowns. We've had a lot of teardowns lately. One of the coolest ones that we've done is Project Tango, right?
Project Tango, yeah.
How did Google pick us? There's only 200, right?
Yeah, so there's 200 of these magical Tango devices.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is that they want to showcase to the new technology. The problem that they're trying to solve is that no modern device is very good at navigating inside of buildings.
Mm-hmm.
So like quadcopters, if you're outside, you can use GPS and you can have autonomous quadcopters, but nobody has really done anything autonomous inside a building, and the reason is that machines kind of suck at mapping the physical environment. So the first gizmo that we got our hands on that started to map the physical environment was the Kinect over here.
Yeah.
So this is one
Some
of
of you
my
have
favorite
these.
retro teardowns. This is the original Kinect, and it is awesome. So the Kinect uses a camera and an infrared projector and I believe I'm looking, this is the infrared projector, and then you've got a camera and you've got an IR sensor. Projects a map on the world and then reads it, and it's using technology from this company called PrimeSense.
Mm-hmm.
PrimeSense is a Israeli semiconductor startup. Pretty darn cool tech. We've been following them for a long time. I've talked with them at trade shows. They're pretty nifty folks, and Microsoft tried really, really hard to buy them back in the day. And they said no. And so we went along, and then the new Kinect actually uses a different technology. So they stopped using the PrimeSense technology, and they came up with a different way of mapping the physical world. So now we flash forward, and we're how many years later? We're like 4 years later since the Kinect.
Yeah.
And we've got Tango. Did we
Well.
crash?
Yes.
Where's my chat?
Okay. Sorry.
Okay.
We are learning about the Google chat technology. We're getting better. The goal for this session today is to not have it crash like it did last time.
Yeah.
We'll see how it goes.
We recovered quickly. So back to the Kinect.
So the original Kinect was a marvel of technology, and the idea is that it can tell where you are in the room.
Right.
But it's just the Kinect is sitting physical, and you could sort of get a rough idea of what's going on. So the first thing that people did was they put the Kinect on quadcopters, and they started using Kinects to navigate around the room.
Cool.
Well, that's pretty nifty. But you got to have this thing has a USB power source. It's big and clunky. So Project Tango is basically a Kinect on wheels. It is a cell phone with the PrimeSense technology in it and a whole bunch of other fancy stuff. And we have sort of learned, when Google announced the Tango project, they said, look, this is just R&D. We're just going to show it off, and we're just going to give the hardware to a select few partners, mostly academics. And actually, I got an email today from some folks at Cal Poly, our local university, that are really excited about using it. They want to use it to map some of our local landmarks. So there's a lot of interesting things that you can do if you start mapping internal structures. And you can see here in this video that they're mapping internal. As you move around a room, it generates a virtual map, and then you can pass that map to AI software and use it to get around. Pretty nifty. So what's interesting about Google using PrimeSense is that our favorite fruit company bought PrimeSense last year. So what are they going to do now that Google's got their fancy new hot Tango technology and Apple bought the company inside it. But let's take a look at the Teardown. I want to show you the map.
I've got it on mine.
I want to show you the map that we generated. So we wanted to take a picture of the IR field that is generated. And so this is what the Tango does.
Sorry.
And no, it's okay if you zoom in, you see the pattern of the dots. So it's projecting a grid of dots on a wall or on a room, and then it measures the differences. It knows exactly what the pattern would be if it were a flat wall, but the world is not flat, and so it measures the differences between each of those, and then uses that along with the motion processor that's on the phone to create a three-dimensional image of the world, or a three-dimensional file, and then it makes that available to software running on the phone. So the idea is give us the sensors, give us the tech on a standard platform, and then allow the software guys to do the hard work of turning that into something real.
Sure. So how far out do you think we are from this actually coming to our phones?
Well, here's the problem with Tango is it's big.
Right.
So if you look at the device, and we had to give it back to Google, so I don't have it now.
Yeah, unfortunately we did have to give it back.
But you can see it's like 3 times as big as a normal phone.
Right.
And the reason that Tango is big and beefy is that the battery has to be massive because it's got a projector. It actually has an infrared projector that's shining at the room, creating the grid of dots, and then reading that back in. And having a projector on a mobile device sucks battery.
Right.
The Tango doesn't get very good battery life. It's massive. So we will not see this kind of technology, this exact format with a Kinect-style transmitter in a mobile phone. I don't think ever. What I think we will see is something else.
Okay.
And I think that the Project Tango folks are willing to let us look at the hardware because they know this is sort of like, this is a way to accomplish a tech demo so we can start to build software, but this is not what the final product is going to be.
Right.
Because they have a chicken egg situation. They need the hardware so that you can develop the right software, but people aren't going to buy the hardware until there's good software. So this is, I think, a couple years out, but it's pretty darn cool tech, and we were super excited to get our hands on it.
Super excited. Definitely check out the Teardown at iFixit.com. It's really cool. We obviously didn't get to play with it or keep it as long as we liked, but it's still very cool, and it's cool that we were one of the first to get it.
It was fun.
Right?
It was nice of them to share it with us.
Yeah, it was super cool. We also did another teardown of the Samsung Galaxy S5. To some of you, yeah, I've got it up. If you guys, there we go. So this was a cool one coming out. I don't know. I feel like the Galaxy is one of the favorites out there for Android phones, right?
Well, we have really been a fan of the Galaxy S series. They've scored very well in the repairability rankings as we get inside these things. The Galaxy S2, S3, S4 all got very good scores.
I love repairing the S3. That was one of my favorite things.
I mean, they're fun, they're easy, they're robust. It's been really night and day to compare repairing a Galaxy S4 with an iPhone.
Yeah.
The Galaxies are quite a bit easier to work on.
Right.
Or they have been until now.
Yeah, this one was a little different. We did encounter glue. There was an interesting mid-frame. Did you see that? There were like two mid-frames?
The way that they approached the design was they said, look, we need a flagship feature that we can show off. They wanted something to differentiate themselves from Apple. They knew that their fingerprint sensor was an also-ran. They probably knew it wasn't as good as Apple's. They knew where they were chasing along. So they needed a way, back up. So they needed a way to differentiate themselves. So they said, all right, well, what if we make the thing waterproof? That'll be amazing. and I mean, this is an important thing. We get a lot of phones with water damage. I see people dropping phones, or you're out running, you get it wet. So it will definitely improve product lifespans to have a phone that is waterproof. So the way that they tackled that is they said, well, how in the world can we seal the circuitry off from everything else? They still wanted a user removable battery. So what they did was they created a mid-frame, they glued the front screen to the mid-frame, and then they made a removable back plate with a rubber gasket that seals over the battery. So when the back panel is on, the rubber gasket seals around the battery, and it creates a water-resistant frame. So it's water resistant down to a couple feet. Don't go swimming. Don't go to the bottom of the swimming pool. All right. So you can get the back off. You can get the battery in and out easily, which is great. And the battery is a primary way that phones fail. So Samsung is addressing two major problems that the iPhone has. They are making the battery easy to remove, and they are dealing with the water damage issue. That's fantastic. But what they've done is the other very common problem that both the iPhone and the Galaxy has is the screen.
Right.
And getting in and replacing the screen on a Galaxy S5 is much more difficult than it is on a iPhone.
Yeah. You got to go all the way through. Logic board has to come off. I mean, it's a lot more difficult than the 4, for sure.
So you can kind of understand where Samsung is coming from. And we are appreciative, by the way. I also have, this is the other teardown that we did recently. This is the
HTC One.
HTC One M8. So you can see big battery. This is the aluminum mainframe. And this is milled out of a single block of aluminum mid-frame or a rear panel, just like Apple does. And the whole thing is glued together. Yeah. So this is the second worst phone that we have ever taken apart in terms of repairability.
Yeah, that was a beast.
The Galaxy S5 is bad. It's much worse than previous Galaxies, but we still give it a 5 out of 10. So it's absolutely doable. It's just harder than it used to be. Really easy to do a battery. Really easy to replace a back panel. Probably isn't going to break from water damage, but the screen is going to be a lot harder than it used to be on Galaxy devices.
Right. So if you're okay with this, I wanted to bring in a surprise.
Okay.
All right. So we have here with us Elizabeth. She's one of our writers, and she is the editor of iFixit.org. If you guys haven't seen iFixit.org, I will pull up some of the things we have there. But Elizabeth, thanks for coming.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
We are so excited to introduce you to everyone. If you don't visit iFixit.org on the regular, you should. She and others are always putting great articles up there. And specifically, we have this article that I have up on my screen right here.
I took that photo in Delhi, by the way.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's a cool one.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah.
He is separating out the copper bits from the steel bits in power supplies.
Oh, wow. Okay, I see it. Yeah. So e-waste is the toxic legacy of our digital age. So can you tell us a little bit about this? This is, by the way, if you check it out, this is one of the prettiest articles. It's all, great graphics, great, pictures. So tell us why you felt compelled to really focus this one.
Well, so I started writing about e-waste for iFixit in January 2012, and as we did more and more research, we learned that it's an incredibly complicated issue.
Right.
And basically what we found is there's nobody telling the whole story. There's nobody who's talking about everything from mining to manufacturing to e-waste to recycling to repair. And so we wanted to tell that story. So iFixit.org came out of realizing that we needed to be the resource that was not available.
Sure.
There's a lot of folks talking. Everyone has their specific bias. You've got some environmental folks that have one perspective. You have electronics recyclers in the U.S. that are really focused on preventing any material from going overseas. You have manufacturers that want to talk about how recyclable their product is without actually demonstrating it. So we felt like there was a need for a central place for some unbiased information where we could go and talk to all the experts and share what was really going on.
So one thing I was reading in this article that I was surprised to see is that 75% of our e-waste ends up in landfills. Why do you guys think that that's the case? Is it a lack of education? Do people think that it's going to the right place and it just doesn't end up there? Or do they just not know that you really should be recycling things different when it comes to electronics?
I think some of it is that people don't know how to find an electronic recycler.
Okay. And you did tell me about this website,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
So I've got it up on my screen, and it's called earth911.com. So
not Earth 911.
No.
Right.
Earth 911. I talked. They clarified that point for me when I talked to them.
It is earth911.com, and I've got it here, and I've even got this tab open. You can come to this website and look at all these. You can see where to recycle what you have in your area, someplace near you. So. Do you think things like, is there a way that you think people should be, Kyle's taking over my computer, do you think things like this will help, or is there a way we can get more people knowing that there's a different place to recycle your batteries than it would be to recycle your garden stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think absolutely telling people that there are these kinds of resources available is really important, and helping people find where to take stuff is important. But one of the points that we really want to hammer home is that recycling is not the best way to deal with your electronic waste, and that recycling is absolutely the very, very far end of life.
Last, yeah.
So, like, this site, so, I mean, it's important to know, and I mean, this is useful. So, Staples will take your cell phone, Goodwill will take your cell phone, Best Buy will take your cell phone. So, there's a lot of great places you can take them. What's not listed here is Craigslist.
Right.
And Craigslist is far more environmentally preferable than any of these sources.
Right.
If you go and you sell your phone, it's going to get used. It's going to continue its happy life, rather than if you give it to Staples, they're probably going to sell it to an electronics recycler who will then most likely shred it. They might reuse it.
Right. Most electronic recyclers grind up phones and computers and so on, and that wastes all of the energy that went into mining and manufacturing and so on. And there are many people who don't have access to technology because they can't afford it, or they're not able to get it for some reason.
And yet we're throwing all of this technology out that other people could be using.
Exactly.
Very cool.
What's interesting when you shred a phone, so if there's a finite number of phones out there, and so let's say there's 100,000 of a particular phone somebody might want to buy, if you start shredding some of them, you reduce the amount of phones that are available, which means that the price of used phones goes up. And so, like, one thing that Cash for Clunkers did when they killed all of those cars was actually dramatically increase the prices of used cars that were available, because there were just fewer cars on the market. So we see this with cell phones. If you're prematurely recycling things, it makes older phones more expensive, which makes it harder for people to afford them. Overall, I think the iFixit.org site relaunch has gone pretty well. And Elizabeth deserves a lot of the credit for it. She did a lot of the heavy research. There are a lot of very long, very boring academic papers on things like metals recycling rates that Elizabeth sifted through so you don't have to.
And it's not only educational, but it is an entertaining site. You can, and that's another place you can go to pledge to do your repairs. We have a cool map to see who has made the pledge. But yeah, thank you for all the work that you're doing in this area. I think we really need a spotlight on this. Is there anything, now that you have a really cool platform that's different than iFixit.org, that you'd like to tell people?
No, but I do want to share my favorite statistics from that e-waste page.
Okay.
Is that if you put 1 year of e-waste produced in the United States on one side of the scale, and all of the blue whales still alive in the world on the other side, the e-waste would be heavier.
You're kidding.
Yeah, just 1 year,
Whoa.
just in the U.S. Yeah.
Whoa.
So either we're killing a lot of blue whales, or there's a lot of e-waste.
Maybe both.
maybe both.
Wow, that's an amazing number, and not a good one. I mean, but wow.
So we're continuing to build out .org, and we are very interested in feedback. So Elizabeth and I are super excited to make the site better. So if you have questions, or there's burning things that you wish we were covering, or places that we should go and investigate, let us know. She's editor at iFixit.org. And we're happy to talk and improve things.
Yeah. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Gwendolyn. Thank you.
Check it out. Also, if you have any questions for Elizabeth, she will stay she's in the chat room right now. When she gets off, she'll be better at her computer. And she'll be answering any of your questions. So if you have questions for her, go ahead and send them to the chat room right now. And that is ifixit.com/chat. So we'll see you later in the chat room.
Bye,
Thank you so
everybody.
much.
Thank you.
It looks like Carlos is online from Panama. So greetings to Panama.
Hi.
I've never been to
Carlos.
Panama, but I hear it's nice this time of year.
Yeah? I bet it's nice all the time, right?
Yeah.
It's Panama. Very cool. Well, we do have someone else that we'd like to introduce to everyone.
Who?
That would be Scott.
Oh, Scott.
Come
That's
on,
right.
Scott.
That's right.
Come
Hi,
on
Scott.
down. I told him I'd pretend it was like the price.
Scott,
is
you brought me a
right,
spudger.
I did. Special present. Just from customer
This is nice. My spudger is telling me that repair is noble.
but It is. Did you not know that?
That's our rebranded one we did a bit ago.
Come on,
very
scoot
nice.
in. Let everybody see you. Okay, guys, this is Scott.
Hi, everybody.
One of our awesome, amazing people who will be answering the phone if you call.
One of the people.
One
One of the four.
of the four.
So then you're one of the least famous people at iFixit,
Yeah.
or most accessible anyway.
25%.
You just call the phone number and you will answer.
Yeah.
The phone number that's
Or email. So
You
sometimes
could
people-
email.
Yep,
The
people
email
you
support
if I
at
get my
iFixit. Scott's the
reply.
guy.
Yep.
Great. So there's a question I have for you. What do you love about iFixit? What made you want to work here?
the first thing that I noticed, the pinball
Yeah.
machine in our old
Well, that's
I got-
an honest answer.
I got hired, came in for my interview, walked through the little lobby. There was the pinball machine right there. I was like, okay, I got to see if I can, this is up for grabs to play or not. And then, took the job and I walked back out and got to play the pinball machine for 5 minutes. Came back in the following Monday on Memorial Day and it didn't work. I was like, they rigged this thing so that they knew I liked pinball. I came in, got the job, and then, that was it.
It's
Well, you know
working
why
now,
we have
right?
the pinball machine?
Why?
It's because it always breaks.
Oh, yeah.
So it's so that we always have something to practice
fix.
on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
The pinball machine breaks at least once a month, and then we're in there. I mean, it's working at the moment.
Yeah. Jeff and I went through it real quick and put new flippers on it, and
Very
plays
cool.
a lot better.
There's a thriving spare parts marketplace for pinball
Really?
machines. Yes. So
Would have never
So
known.
the definition of a pinball machine is a massive, complex mechanical thing
Oh, it's very
that will
complex.
break.
Yeah.
Guaranteed all the time. There are so many moving parts. It's just constantly breaking and constantly getting fixed. Jerry Ellsworth, good friend of ours up in Portland, she ran a pinball machine repair business for a long time. And she owned something like 70 or 80 pinball machines. And so shout out to Jerry. She is awesome.
Maybe she can give us one.
I think all of her pinball machines are at Valve right now. So yeah,
got it.
they're kind of big to move.
Yeah, they're very difficult. That was like the least fun thing when we moved into the building was to move that pinball machine.
So tell us a little bit more about what you do here at iFixit.
Okay, so customer service, phone calls, emails, things like that. I also handle all of our wholesale accounts. So
Okay.
if you walk into a Fry's or a Radio Shack and you see the tools there, I handle the distribution for that. And then the not so fun part is people trying to use stolen credit card information. So we've got a little bit of that goes on. So I spend some time.
So all those
Fighting
Target
that.
phone numbers,
Yep.
you're the one who collects them at the end of the day.
Exactly. I've got every single person's Target credit card number in my back pocket. Oh, you were stolen. Yeah. So.
Cool. So you do a lot of answering the phone and answering questions. What is a question that you see a lot of people calling in and saying, and then you're like, oh, I've heard this one before. Let me help you through it. Yeah.
Right. The first one is, of course, do we do repairs? Unfortunately not.
We
Okay.
don't. You do the repairs.
Yeah.
It's called iFixit.
Yeah. So there's a
So
little bit
Scott,
confusion.
will you fix it for me,
No.
please?
Maybe.
Pretty please.
Maybe. Depends on what it is.
I have a phone. Where'd my phone go?
That's up back there.
Oh, you stole
We
my
stole
phone.
your phone.
Okay,
Yeah.
I have a phone.
Okay.
I want you to fix it.
I'll do the battery on the phone.
Okay, that'd be helpful. Thanks.
So Scott is going to show us how to do that repair and how easy it
You want me to
is.
do that right now?
Sure. So is that a question that you get a lot? Do you get a lot of battery questions?
We get batteries and display assemblies are the big guys because batteries are, of course, the big wear and tear on the phone, right? You charge your phone, discharge your phone. It has a limited number of uses to it, and it's going to be need to be replaced at some point. So that's a huge seller.
So this is my phone.
Yep.
Just to make it clear, I don't know if it's like I will type in my security code. Okay, so this is my phone.
Yeah.
All right, so I'll turn it off.
And then, of course, the other big one is display assemblies.
Displays.
Right?
Yep.
Kyle was talking about earlier with the Samsung Galaxy. Now it's waterproof, which should help, but you still drop your
Do you
phone.
get a lot of a particular brand?
I mean,
calls about
Yeah, we get the iPhone stuff mostly.
a lot.
So.
Yeah.
It's been really intriguing though lately because we've been trying to open up the market. We've started doing some of the Samsung Android stuff because we know that's kind of the big seller.
Sure.
And it's been really interesting because I always felt that the iPhone parts were always a little more expensive because they kind of have that Apple tax to them. Mm-hmm. But the Samsung stuff's even more
Really?
expensive. Yeah, surprisingly.
But that's partially because we're able to get OEM Samsung.
That does
parts.
help a lot.
So in
That
the
does
Apple
help a lot.
world, there's more aftermarket parts.
Yeah. I mean, our parts for Apple, we try and source the OEM if we're able to, and if we're not, then we get what we would consider a perfect copy.
We get the best quality
Exactly.
aftermarket parts.
I just want to point out that Kyle likes
Yep,
to live
yep.
dangerously. There are no screws on the back panel of his phone.
Yeah. So
Well, it
normally
says there's you can get the phone with the Pentalobe where it's closed into the Apple ecosystem, and then you can free your phone and put Phillips screws on it. I like
That's what
to
I do.
like to have my
have
phone
Phillips.
completely liberated with no screws.
Dangerous, but okay.
you swap your battery like every 2 days.
Yeah,
so you
I mean,
just
you know.
blow through them. Yeah.
Well, when you're on an airplane and you need the phone to last, for a 16-hour flight, it's nice to be
So
able to
if
drop
you
in
were
3 or 4
doing this
batteries.
repair, Scott, first you would take out either the Pentalobe or the Phillips if you have changed
Yeah,
them
put you there
out
on
at
the
the
bottom.
at the bottom, and then you move on to
Yep. So then you pop off the rear cover, which is Apple did a great job. It just slides right off. And then normally you've got, if this was a 100% phone, unkyled, then you would have 2 screws on the 4S and there's 1 on the iPhone 4.
Okay.
And then the 4S, you have to be careful. There's a grounding clip in there that likes to pop out. Using the transparent panel, it's not needed though. So this is also not in there. So it just makes for a lot easier repair. But besides swapping out the 2 bottom screws, I mean, this is like the easiest repair you can do. We've had people that are in their 90s do it in 20 minutes. I mean, it's
very cool.
And then call us up and say, "Oh my gosh,
I did it!
I changed my iPhone battery," and it's a really cool.
That's the best feeling.
Exactly.
We did one of these on stage at Macworld last year. We did it blindfolded. So Scott, the other
Nice.
Scott, actually
Scott Head can
blindfolded
do that, yeah.
and did the whole thing blindfolded in about 2 minutes.
He's Scott #1 though. That's the reason he's my boss. So he was able to do it blindfolded. I've got to use both.
So the key as you're doing this is to rip the battery connector off the motherboard.
Well, you don't need it, you know.
So the only real tricky thing is as you take the connector off, you want to get and pry on the connector itself and not on the plug on the main board. So you need to get under there, and you can even use a fingernail or a spudger. And this is the connector. So this is the piece that you want to come off, and you don't want the part on the motherboard to come up with it.
We do get those phone calls sometimes that say, you know, the battery you sent me doesn't look like the battery that I just pulled out of my phone. We get the picture, and then it's, you know, unfortunately
Sometimes it's people that are overly aggressive prying.
You get
Sometimes it's not their fault. Sometimes, every once in a while, and this is like 1 in 100,000 products, when they assembled it the first time, the connector either breaks a little bit as they're putting it on there, or it's not quite solid. And so the first time you ever go to do a repair, you pull it off, and the main board breaks, and you think it's your fault, and it's actually just a manufacturing defect.
Yeah. I was told by the tech writers, never force it. No. Never force it.
Don't get. I always talk. You know, customers always ask, "Okay, is it really easy?" Which is a very vague question, unfortunately, because I mean, we try and give it as a, you know, most difficult rating as possible, but you know, everybody does things differently, so whatever their aptitude is different. But I always just say, I mean, the slower you go, the more you read our guides. I mean, we spend a lot of time on these guides, and we're always working every day.
And we make the mistakes first. We make sure, you know, even if we break whatever part we're working on, it's so that you don't do it. You know, we make sure to tell you what's going to happen in your repair.
Well, and we had some issues with the iPhone 5, you know, that we had to make some modifications to the guide because customers were coming back and saying, okay, well, I attempted to do it this way. This is what happened. And so we went in, and that's the great thing about the guides, too, is that they're all editable. So customers were modifying them and letting us know.
Well, and we find, I mean, the way that the guide is written when we first publish it is not what the guide is going to look like 2 or 3 years down the road.
Exactly.
Every single person that goes through and does a repair adds to all of our knowledge. And every possible mistake that you might ever make fixing this iPhone 4S, someone else has made that mistake before, posted a question about it on Answers, made an edit to a guide. Pretty much every line, every word of the guide is there for a reason. And I mean, that's cool. We're able to build off the collective knowledge of everybody. But for me, like when I'm following a repair guide, I tend to be in kind of a hurry. So did it turn back on, or?
I don't think you ever turned it off.
But how did you pull the battery out?
Yeah.
So does it
well,
stay
probably
on?
in the time that I connected it.
It must have turned back on. Yeah. This is like instant. It's back and ready to go. Cool.
Nice.
So when I'm following a repair guide, I tend to just look at the pictures and not read the text because I'm in a hurry.
Yep.
And sometimes I'll even skip a picture.
Right.
And then I'm trying to get the case off and it won't come off, and I'm cursing it and I'm saying that the repair guide sucks, and then I realize I skipped step 7.
Yeah. And it does happen. I mean, again, you just get really excited. Like, I broke my phone. I got to get my phone going again. I mean, you get really excited to finish the repair.
Right.
And to pat yourself on the back, and then, you know.
And then something goes wrong. Yeah.
So this is back on and happy, and so the battery off the shelf. This came straight off the shelf. Yep. This has 47% capacity right now.
Cool.
And that's pretty typical for us because when you store a battery, we want to store batteries between 20 and 80% full. We don't want them 100% full. Right. The battery lasts longer on the shelf if you don't charge it up completely.
And these are all tested, so they go through the really extensive, like, 5-hour test and all that fun stuff. So.
Do you have any suggestions for people who are having problems with whatever they're dealing with, some gadget out there, but they don't know what the problem is?
Yeah, that's a really tough one. I mean, our answers forum works really well. We've got some people in there that are just way smarter than us. I mean, we get emails all the time that's like, you know, my HTC One, right? I mean, we just don't really know those products that well. We've torn them down, but we don't have much repair knowledge and much, you know, troubleshooting. My HTC One is doing this, and we send them over to the answers forum, and people on there are
Great.
just, yeah.
And to get there, you just go to our homepage, so iFixit.com, and it is the second tab there at the top. So, and like he said, we just have so many great people that are watching this, and that are within the company, and just wonderful people out there who have just so much knowledge and love helping other people out. So if you put your question up there and you're not exactly sure what's going on, that's a good place to troubleshoot.
Yeah,
before you call us.
I usually hang out in the car section on there. That's usually my
Nice.
Well, and a shout out to Old Turkey, who has been one of our community members for a very long time. We just wrote a story about him on iFixit.org because he posted a repair guide for Blender.
Oh
Magic
yeah,
Bullet Blender.
the bullet, yeah.
Yeah, super neat. So Old Turkey is awesome. So howdy, Mr. Turkey. He's great, and he's far better at diagnosing these issues than I am.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing. And we lean on them a lot of times too. I mean, we just don't always know. We always run into something that's just not quite what we're used to. So we for a while struggled with hard drive replacements in a laptop, which is generally quite easy. There's like 6 screws on the bottom, pop in your new hard drive, boom, fired up, put on a new operating system. And we get these like really weird errors, and just it took us forever to figure it out. But we finally did, which is great. Now we know, but I mean, it took a lot of, and that's what's great about iFixit too. I mean, our customer service team is phenomenal. So all of us were basically racking our brains and trying different things. And because at the end, I mean, we don't want the customer to be, disappointed. You're setting out to do a repair on your own. You could have taken it to a repair shop to have them struggle with it, take it to the Apple store. And instead they chose to embark on it themselves, and then all of a sudden you can't even finish the repair because of some issues.
So it might be good. So what does it take to ask a good question? Because I know you get questions all the time where and you're like, I don't have any idea what you're talking about.
Right.
So it seems like the same sort of question that would help you do your job is also the sort of thing that would be helpful to post on answers.
Yeah, I mean, okay, which actual specific device are you working on? Okay, is it Apple iPhone 5? Okay. Perfect.
So it's not just an iPhone.
Right.
It's
not
not
just an
it's
iPhone.
not just a MacBook.
Not just a Apple. Yeah, iPhone 5. Okay, and I am seeing 3 gray lines horizontally across it. Okay, perfect. Now we know exactly what you're seeing. And then I have tried this. Tried nothing, which is absolutely fine. If you have no idea where to start, which, it's understandable. Or, I tried smashing with a hammer and now it works worse. So any of those things.
Don't do that, though.
Well, okay, but don't. Yeah. But if you have done that.
So the history of everything that you've tried is really, really useful. Absolutely. So usually I would start with the symptoms.
Yep.
Describe your problems, describe the things that you've tried, and maybe if you've tried swapping in parts. And then as you go with a question, you can edit your question so you can go and improve it, or you can comment on answers. So we see a lot of times someone posts a question, you get proposed solutions, and you might propose a reasonable solution, and then I'll go and do a test and say, well, actually, it's not that. So I'll comment on it. I'll probably vote your answer up. I'll comment on it, but I'm not going to accept your solution because it doesn't solve the problem yet.
Exactly. But it was at least a valiant effort.
Right.
Nice. Great. Do you have any crazy repair stories or troubleshooting stories?
Well, so we had the hard drive issue.
Sure.
That was brain racking. I did have a fun phone call a while ago with a gentleman that just like totally had the confidence to do it, but the repair skills to do the repairs at iPhone 3GS battery, which is not that easy. You got to pull out the screen, you got to pull out the logic board, and it's not the easiest thing to do. And I was basically just phone support for him. He could totally do it himself, and he just needed like the extra like vote of confidence with all the steps. And nicest gentleman ever, but it was at the end he finished it. Battery, phone fired up, battery worked great, and both of us were kind of patting each other on the back like we held each other's hand and walked each other through it. So. Yeah, it was really.
It's like the Apollo 13 repair where they're up there and they're doing the thing, but you got ground control walking you through it.
Right.
Yeah. Please, just for the sake of our sanity, don't expect everyone to walk. We will not walk everyone through our repair guides, but every once in a while, you get someone with a heart of gold that's trying to do it, and we just want to help.
Yeah. I mean, we want to help all the customers. We just, we don't always have the day becomes very limited quickly.
Maybe this should be Answers 2.0. We could do, phones. So you go on there and you say, okay, I am ready to help people with questions, and we just sort of do the Google Hangout. It could be like what was the Snapchat anonymous video dating or video service where they, you go on and it would just pair you up randomly with somebody else on the internet?
Oh yes, with the webcams thing.
Yeah.
I can't think of what that's called.
That went downhill very quickly, but you can imagine for repairs.
Something like that.
Scott, Carlos has a question for you.
Yep.
So how do you ground yourself when you make these repairs?
Oh, good question. It kind of depends on what you're working on. If it's something like you're just kind of putting new RAM into a computer, it's usually quite simple. You just touch the computer and that should pretty much dissolve you of any static. If you're working on kind of a deeper repair, probably buying an anti-static wrist strap.
Okay.
And then using that. Usually they've got like an alligator clip and you can connect that to,
metal
yeah,
somewhere.
Exactly.
We didn't really show it, but like anytime Scott or I are working on electronics, we're generally like reaching under the table and touching the metal when we work on it. And maybe we're a little bit cavalier. We should probably be wearing a wrist strap. But it doesn't have to be enough static where you feel a shock. It can be.
I mean, these components are so sensitive to anything, so you're never gonna feel it, and you can. And we don't know. Sometimes we get customers that say like this part doesn't work, and we go, well, we tested this. It's crazy that it doesn't work, and so I mean, just things like that can happen. Even we could have killed it before we, after we tested, we killed it, or
David is asking, or helping people on the Google Plus side.
Yeah.
Where do our parts go after the teardowns?
They go into this box. This is the box I have from the HTC M8. So there's a few places they go. At the moment, the M8 is sitting right here. So this is everything from the HTC Teardown, including, I have in here a magnetic mat, and you can see we're taking notes as we go. So the plan with any device we do a high-profile teardown on is to write a repair manual for it eventually. So the goal is take it apart, put it back together, take it apart for the teardown, publish that. Then we take it apart again, and we spend a week or two methodically learning how the product works. So the teardowns are usually just a first stab at getting inside and trying to get a feel for how the device works, what the semiconductors are, what design decisions they made, how glued together it is, who makes the cameras, all of that. Then we're able to spend some more time and learn a bit about how the hardware works. So we'll take a week, we'll write a repair manual. And that's why we don't have the Galaxy S5 right now, is because that's off in the other room. They're writing the repair manual for it. So we couldn't steal it. This HTC M8 is probably going to go to the teardown, or to work on the repair manual, if we feel like we can do a repair manual for it. This one is kind of borderline. It's so difficult. And I don't know. Usually we're trying not to damage the device as we work on it. We're not sure with the M8. It was so difficult to get it apart, we're not sure if it will still work again. So this is something we will be putting this back together, seeing if we can get it working. With other gizmos, things that are generally fairly repairable, we put them back together. So actually we're using, here in the video studio, we use the Mac Pro that we did the Mac Pro teardown of. It's sitting right over there. So we tend to try to put them to good use. But I think a very common question we get is, hey, can I have the thing that you had from the teardown? And the answer is, well, no, because we need it to write a repair manual for it.
Right.
And then we need it in case we need to make changes to the repair manual. Or, sometimes, I think last year at the Christmas party, we gave away a couple game consoles.
Yeah, some of us may have lost some Xboxes accidentally.
Accidentally?
Well, not accidentally, I mean, it was...
Someone's got to use it at some point. So nothing ever goes to waste.
I got my Xbox,
So I'm not sure if this is from Google Plus because I'm not seeing it in the chat, but we have someone from Mexico City. Don't have a name, sorry guys. But do you guys have any idea why the following message shows up at start? Unapproved caller, security agent may only be invoked by Apple.
Sounds like
ever heard that one? Yeah.
Is it a jailbroken phone, I guess is the question.
Yeah, we would need a little more information for that question.
I don't have any idea.
Yeah, give us more information and we'll try to help you out. If not, go to our answers page and maybe go ahead and put that there and we'll see if we can help you there.
Yeah, let us know if it shows up in the logs or if it's just flashing up right on the phone. I think that's a good question.
All right, great question. Keep them coming. We are going to stay in the chat room and be answering questions live for a little bit longer, and then we're going to get off the air and continue in the chat room with you guys. We won't leave you just yet. So
someone wanted to know what's the difference between the original Kinect and the new Kinect.
Yeah.
And the answer is that they went from using a infrared projector that projects the map on the wall, just like the Project Tango uses an infrared projector and prime sense. The new technology is using a a couple of cameras, and they're doing higher resolution sensing on the room just using cameras. So they've got more sophisticated, and they're able to do it without the infrared projector, which is a very good thing for power consumption. It also might be the sort of thing that Project Tango might be able to use in the future.
And the one that you had just up here, that was the old style or the new style?
That was the old style one, yeah. The new one, it's interesting. It's actually bigger, but there's no reason it needed to be that big. I don't know if it was industrial design. It's weird. You look at both the Xbox One and the PS4, and then the new Kinect. They're all much bigger than they need to be. And you take them apart, and you're like, why in the world is there so much space inside this thing? And the only thing I can think of is that they're so afraid of overheating.
Yep.
Right.
They just want, but it
You
seems
can't blame
unnecessary.
them with all the.
With
I can't
Xbox.
blame them. But it's the exact opposite approach. You've got Apple with the Apple TV, and it's that big, and then you have the Xbox One, and it's monolithic.
Right.
Cool.
They sort of do the same thing. And I mean, have you? We got the new Amazon TV. So that was the other teardown that we did lately.
Have you seen that one?
No.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
We were playing.
I know
with
there's
it
been
in
a
here.
big, you got the Roku, you've got the Amazon,
Right.
you've got the Google Chromecast, so they're all kind
What do you have at home?
of Mac Mini actually.
Yeah,
That runs Plex.
there you go.
That works great.
And or you can do an old Xbox, like Xbox Media Center on it. Yeah.
Yeah, those all work great. I would do like just a Chromecast, I think, because it runs Plex, but
Yeah.
I don't have HDMI in on my receiver.
So I was trying Chromecast on the screen in here, and they have a beta mode where you can share your entire screen on the Chromecast, which is pretty nifty. But it's like a half-second lag, and the frame rate is only a couple frames a second, just coming from off your computer. So for using it as a second monitor, it's slightly iffy. But if once you like go to YouTube and you pick a YouTube video and you play it, then it streams directly from YouTube to the Chromecast, and that's pretty
smart.
smooth. Yeah.
That's pretty smart. So you could show pictures with it or
Right.
something then.
But for pure screen sharing from a Mac, an Apple TV is better right now.
Yeah.
Well, guys, we've been here for a good amount of time. You have anything else to say?
Have you shown off this magnetic mat? You were holding it up with all the screws.
We
and
have
you
one.
didn't
Don't lose the screws
Well,
though.
you-
Well,
that's the thing.
That's
You're
the
not
point
even-
of the magnetic
yeah.
mat is I can't
The tool
pick it up.
team did an awesome job with this.
The magnetic mats just keep getting better.
I don't do a repair without it. There's like no way.
Well, and
That's
you know
how
we've
I
got
keep
something super
myself
cool coming.
so organized.
You've heard about the new little tray that we've got coming too,
I
right?
did hear about that. I'm
New products
excited.
in development all the time. Yeah, so this most things stick to it pretty well.
Yeah.
These are actually sticking to it because they're glued on.
Ah.
Thank you, HTC. But the rest of it is held on with magnets.
Yeah.
That's great. You can stack all those, and you could have 10 projects, move them around.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did an awesome job
It's
with that.
and being able to write what step things came out on and where it goes back. It's not so much for the actual way into whatever your device is. It's on the way out.
Yeah.
And being
That's
able
the big
to
thing.
put it back together efficiently. I would never do a repair without it.
I definitely
love
remember
it.
as a kid taking things apart and then, okay, time, oh, nope, never mind. All right, that's not a device anymore.
Yeah. Maybe that's
Cool.
the next iFixit Live is we just go down to Goodwill and get a bunch of old hardware and rip it apart.
Ooh, that'd be
to see
fun.
what they've got down there.
Yeah. Give us suggestions.
We
We'll do that.
are taking requests.
Yeah.
Any other last minute questions? Throw them up there. We'll hit you after the broadcast.
Definitely. And remember that Elizabeth is still in the chat room, and so Scott's going to join you guys in the chat room in a little bit. And, of course, we will be there, and we'll be answering your questions. So keep them coming, and we'll see you on the next iFixit Live.
Tell us what you want us to do next. We're excited.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Cheers.